we are building this kind of to-do app today. So if you go see here, if you open the app, this is a kind of task you see here, like say the basic to-dos, right? So we can just toggle them on and off, and you can write a new to-do using this form below. Task name can be bring groceries, and task description can be something else, like whatever you want to describe. And once you save it, uh, then this thing goes here directly. So this is what we are going to build today, right? So let's get started. So this is your Android Studio. Once you Android Studio opens, you can click on new project here and go for empty compose activity. When you choose this activity, the compose libraries are directly gets downloaded here, right? So in here you can give name as something like tasky app. You can give whatever the name you want, right? And minimum SDK, we can go for supporting Marshmallow devices is fair. Like very few people use Lollipop these days, and usually people go for Nougat. You can also go for Marshmallow if you want to support more devices. Right, this is your Android Studio. It just loads some, completes its build, and just basically load the entire project into the Android Studio. Right. So let's wait for a couple of minutes. Yeah, our project got loaded. So you can select for the project view, and this is how the project is going to look like. Gradle files are basically configuration files, whatever the versions you have, and whatever the task you have, all these things you can mention here. So Gradle is a generic technology. If you want to support it for Android, you can just give it as id com.android.application. Once you give this particular id, once you add this plugin, our project will start supporting the Android tasks and all, right? So this app directory is what we are going to see once you select Android here. So this is a place where we are going to code our most of the stuff, right? So in here we have a Java and we have a resource directory. So in the resource directory we have all the files, icons. So you see, right, as soon as you open the app, you will see icon for Gmail and all. So those icons will go in here, and if in case if the app has any images, those things will go inside this drawable, right? Similarly, there are strings and dimensions, and all those things will go inside this. Don't worry about this much. This is basically the resources directory, and in the Java directory we'll basically write the code. So in the Java directory we have this tasky app package, and we have two other packages with similar name. One is test and Android test. Don't worry about it just right now. Test means right for writing unit test of the application. Android test means for writing instrumented tests of the application. Like these things will directly go and run in the uh, Android device, whereas these things run in the system, so they are pretty fast, right? But this Android test requires an Android device. In here, inside our task app package, we have something like a main activity here today, right? Let's try to run this app and see what this one gives to us. Right. Let me. So our device got started. I have an emulator set up already. In case if you don't have emulator, you have to go and set up in here. So as soon as we run the app, we see something like hello Android in here, right? What is hello Android? We'll see that. So in here, inside the main activity, an activity. What does an activity mean? Right? An activity means it's a screen, right? A screen that you see inside the inside your Android device. It's called an activity, and it is extending from component activity, which is a Google library, which is a Google Android X library. So this simply means in the Java class subclass extends superclass, right? Whenever we do this as per the inheritance concept, we should be getting all of the properties and methods from the superclass into the subclass. So similarly, onCreate is such method where we are supposed to inflate our UI, right? And this is how we inflate the UI. Set content. In the set content, we will set the content of whatever the content that we give here to this device, right? So in here, what content we have? We have a theme. That means every application will have some theme. So this if you want to change colors and all, you can change it here. This is the place. And we have a surface. For now, ignore the surface. You even if you give just the greeting, it will work same. Surface means it covers the entire screen. So if you try to run the app, it still does the same, right? Hello Android. So greeting is a function, right? What are functions in regular Java? So whenever you write logics and all, function is some function does some tasks and returns as a value, and returns is an optional, returning is an optional, and returns as a value, right? So these are the basic logic, right? So whenever we are writing logics, usually functions do this stuff, right? So functions is the smallest component, and it takes something as a parameter, and it performs some task and it returns as a value. In here, inside the composable function, so this is a normal function in the Kotlin, say test, and this is a normal function. If it returns anything, it should be written as something like this. This is a normal function and it should return a string, right? If we return something, so and when it comes to UI, how will you write a UI? The way you write UI into the device is by using composable functions, right? Normal functions write logics, whereas composable functions writes UI. So in case right now, if we just remove all of this and change this greeting parameter, what this greeting function is doing, it is taking a text and it is adding hello to whatever we give here. So if I just remove this and if I add Prithvi, will it work? Let's just run it, right? If you run it, it got changed to hello Prithvi. Here we have a exclamation extra, so that's how it gets added up, right? This is a basic composable, right? Whatever the composable means, it inflates some UI into the device. So in our to-do app, what we have in our to-do app, we have bunch of to-dos, right? So how do we write a to-do UI? Fun, let's say to-do. So it should be composable, right? If you write COMP and press enter, it adds composable annotation automatically. Annotation means that we are telling compiler that this is a composable function. So to do row, right? To do row. We are coding the smallest component. Let's see what this particular UI has. It has a row and it has a checkbox, right? In here we have a row, and in the row we have a checkbox. Let's say by default we'll give it as false and on changed empty. So after the row, what we have? After the row, we have one task name and task description, right? So task name will go inside a column. So those two are one on top of another. So right now task name is a text, and we'll give it as task name here, and one more text as task description, right? Task description. Let's see. If we try to run this app, let's see what happens. Nothing will happen. Why? Because we didn't call this function yet. So what we have to do, we have to replace this greeting with what? To do row. So as soon as you write this to do row here, you can see the to do row got added up here. We have a checkbox, we have a task name, we have a task description here, right? So and we need right now in here there is not just one to do, there are multiple to dos. So what we do, like whenever there are multiple to dos, right, we use for loop. So whenever we have some list or something, we use for loop, right? So that's how those things will just keep on, the UI will just keep on getting added over here. So before right now you got some basic idea on how the compose works, how the UI is inflected into the device and all. So right now we'll start solving problem our own way. Say whenever you are given a problem, right? Whenever in here the problem is build a to-do application. So always whenever there is a problem, always initialize your data layer. So even in LLD interviews, first you have to create your model. So in here, what is a model? We'll write it inside a Kotlin class. Let's say to-dos, right? In here, what is our model, right? We have a to-do list. Our to-do list is a model here. So we'll do something like class data class. So a model should be inside the data. We'll know why it is sooner. So list of type list of to-dos. Data class to-do. What a to-do has? I assume to-do has a checkbox, it has a name, it has a description. So how do we write a checkbox inside using normal Kotlin? We write something like status, and a checkbox can have only two states, right? It can either be checked or it can either be unchecked. So a status is a boolean for a to-do. So for to-do name, it can be a string, and for to-do description it can be a string, right? This is our model class. And how do we uniquely identify to-do? So in this is any computer problem that you are solving, always you should remember something, which is these data can be same, right? So checkbox can be in the same state for two to-dos, and name can be in same state for to-dos, and description can be in the same state, same string can be for two to-dos. So in order to uniquely identify this, we will define as a ID. So this is one extra parameter other than what we show in the UI ID, right? This is our model right now. So let's say we'll give some so right now let's come back to the UI layer again once we have defined our data. So in the UI layer, we right now want this to-do list, right? We will define this to-do list as some, say, for now let's consider this as, well, to-do list is equal to to-do list of list equal to let's define some to-dos, list of to-do 1 comma, I'm replicating the same what is available in this GIF. Go to shop, so this should be false. Go to shop, right? Let's create one more to-do similar way, and this can be 2 and this can be false. Buy groceries, go to shop, right? So this is our list. We have some dummy list which we have hard coded for now. So how do we show it in the UI? For I in. So just like how we write for loops in the Java, we have a for I in to-do list. What is this to-do list? This to-do list is a bunch of to-dos, right? For I in to-do list, this is giving me some error, must have a iterator. Okay, so this is our list. So right, you have it right. Inside this we have a list, and right now we'll just put this UI inside of this loop. So right now we should see the multiple to-do rows automatically. So we are not saying it. Why we are not saying it? Because those two to-dos are overlapping on one top of another here. How do you avoid it? You will write a column. So if you give a column here, now those two will start showing up one by one. Just like how row is side by side, column is one by one on the vertical direction. Right now you will see multiple to-dos here. So but Prithvi, we have actual to-dos here, right? Buy milk, buy groceries. Why it's still showing task name and task description? Because this particular to-do row, whatever we are inflating, has a manually hard-coded values. How do we avoid it? We'll write it some way like this. We'll take it as a parameter, right? So in here, let pass the parameter I is what to do, right? And right now this can be to do dot status. And what this can be, this can be to do dot to do name, this can be to do dot to do description, right? If we try to run the app right now, we should be seeing the actual values, right? If you see, these are the values we have: list of to do of 1, to do of 2, and second one is checked. So this is how we checked. So usually we don't hard code any values, but in here we have the to-do list manually here. So if we want to add to-dos, what we do, we can create a form here in the below. So how do we create a form? In this column itself, we can write another column here. We can write another box here. Box modifier means that we want to somehow modify this function. Modify dot fill max width. Our box should be filled max width here. So if you see, it is filled completely. And align, where it should be aligned, alignment dot bottom. So once we do this, I think some issue. 1 minute. Let's take this box to some other functions. A composable to do form. Composable to do form. In here, what we write? We write a box and modifier dot fill max width, because we want to fill this particular box towards the entire row and in entire horizontal direction. We want to fill this sub, and what it should be alignment in box scope, right? Let's see. This is row scope, this is column scope, this is box scope. Alright. So for now, let's write it as fill max width, and we'll give some names to it. Like we have 2 text fields inside it and 1 button. How do we write it? We write text field, and value is currently it has say empty value, and on value change keep it as empty as well. And we have another text field, this is also same. And text field, in here we have a hint, something like task name, and in here we have task description, which will go away as soon as we enter it on the keyboard and showing up on the top. So how do we write it? We write it as hint. So that's called label, and label is what? Label is a text again, and the text name is task name here. Same for this one, we have it as task description. Right? So, and we have a button as well here, and the button text is something like save. All this should go inside a column, obviously. Because these are one top of another, right? And if we try to put this particular to do form inside this column, let's see what happens. To do form, right? I'm guessing that it should directly show up in here itself, right? They are directly showing up in here. So let's say this function takes a modifier, and it will directly apply here. So right now what we'll do, we can also take an empty modifier. So if we don't pass it here, we will not get any error here, right? So what we can do, the modifier equal to modifier dot fill max width. That means this particular whatever the form here, it should fill the maximum width, and it should have a background of, say, color equal to, what is the background here? It looks something like grayish to me, at least. Color dot light gray. Let's see by running it how does it look. So yeah, it looks something similar. And bottom right, towards little over here, and it should not be right just below the list, right? So how do we do that? We can wrap this entire thing inside a box. Box means they can show up on one top of another, and it should be modifier dot fill max size, right? And if we open it and take this entire thing over there and bring this to do form little outside of the column, because it should not be inside of the column, it should be little outside of the column, right? And what do we do here? We can just do alignment dot bottom center, right? So let's see how this look like right now. So it got into the bottom, right? And right now this text field also supposed to be modifier equal to modifier dot something like fill max width. So it got complete width, and this should be similar, modifier equal to modifier dot fill max width, right? That is also got filled up. And right now it should be modifier equal to modifier dot alignment dot center. Center doesn't work, center horizontally, right? So it looks something like this, and whatever we initially showed you in the screen. There's little bit of space, so we can give the space as using padding. So it can be something like 16 dp. So there's a bit of space right now we have available here, right? So our UI looks whatever the similar here, except for the fact that this add doesn't work. We'll get that worked as well, right? So anything missing in the UI? I don't see anything, right? So till now we have our UI layer done, right? This is a UI layer, and we have our data layer done. This is our data layer, and right now the only thing that is pending is our logic layer. So how do we do that? We create a main view model, right? Usually view model is where most of the Android logics should be containing, because this class should be easy test, and it is extended to view model from Android X lifecycle. So this is a class from Android X library again. So for now, don't worry about it. This can be just used to save the state of our application, right? So what we have, what are the logics we have? We have a add task, and what add task take? It takes a task name as a string, and it takes a task description as a string, right? And how it should, what it should do? It is supposed to add to-do list dot list. It is supposed to add a task to this to-do list, right? It is supposed to add a task list to this to-do list. So this can be private, and so that it's not used everywhere. So, and this can be to-do list, right? Don't need this. It's just a list, right? So this can be directly keep it here. Any issues here? So just because we have kept it as a private, we will not able to access it. We'll do that, right? So in main view model, our state should present. What is a state? State is a to-do list, right? State is a to-do list, and what we have, we again have to-do list here, but we right now write it using mutable state of, or mutable state. Oh, this we can define as mutable state flow, right? It's a mutable state flow of to-do list. And similarly, right, mutable state what is the value? To basic to-do list, and it has a to-do list, and it has 2 tasks for now, right? For now, just assume this is how we are holding the data inside of this ViewModel class. What it is, we'll see later. For now, just assume this is a variable that is having a to-do list. And how do we add a task to it? Let's see. First, we'll take the existing task size. So, existing task size, say task size equal to state dot value dot list dot size, right? Val to do equal to do of, inside the to do, what all we have a id. How do we make sure id is unique? Task size plus 1, so that id is always unique, right? And what is the task name? Task status by default is false, and task name, it's coming from our parameter. Task description also coming from our parameter. So our to do is ready, and we should append this to do to a list, right? And how do we do that? State dot value dot list is our list, and we are supposed to append update this list somehow, right? So state dot update, and we are supposed to pass a new list to here to it right now here. So val to do's equal to state dot value dot copy, and we are supposed to give a new list to here, to this one. What is a new list? We'll get that as well. State dot value dot list, well, list is equal to dot to mutable list, right? And we'll add this list to here, add a to do. We are adding this particular to do to a list that is copied from here, and we'll give this particular list here, right? And now the updated to do is something like to do list of to do's. Oh, let's see something. Okay, you can directly give this to do's. Let's see if the to do got added here. How do we do that? Just on init we can add a task, and task name is by shirt, not shirt, go to mal. Right, let's see if this one got added. And how do we initialize this main ViewModel? By going here and typing private val ViewModel of type main ViewModel by ViewModels. So this is how you initialize a ViewModels here. So for now, let's say this can be val state of type state flow of to-do list is equal to this particular state. Whatever we are having the state, the same state is mentioned here, right? So how do we get that particular value here? Using val state is equal to ViewModel dot state dot collect as state. If we give it as by right, so this particular state we got imported here. So what we do, state has a list. Right now this one got resolved. So we are collecting whatever the changes that goes here, we are just collecting here, and that changes is given it as a list here. So this row will inflate properly. If we try to run the app now, let's see what happens. It got crashed. Let me see the logs. What does the log say? Get value on a null object reference. So this says it didn't get initialized yet. So this one should go, the init block should go here, right? So you can see the third to do automatically got added because of our add to do task, right? So right now we have to hook this add task function to our save button. How do we do that? Here we go, and the to do form should give us a callback, and to do form say on save clicked. On save clicked should give us a 2 strings, and it should return a unit, right? On save clicked, where do we put this one? I can keep this here. On save clicked, right? What are the parameters that we should pass here? For them we have to take the parameters right now. So val task name set task name equal to remember where task name by remember what should it should give us? It is a string, right? So do is a string, and for now it should give us a mutable state of empty value. Similarly, I'll explain you why I'm writing all these things. Where task description of type string by remember mutable state of, again empty string. So as soon as we compile this form, they got some errors, right? It should give name description so task name task description. So in here currently this form is empty, right? So in the task name this is an empty form. So what that empty form is coming from here. Say if we give something else here, then this particular task name will have a by default value of it didn't have yet, because right currently it is still task name hard coded value in here. Say if we give it as task name, and if we give it as task description here, So if you see, the SDFS got showed up here. That's why initially the form should be empty, right? So we'll give an empty string here. And why this remember and all? Because this composable, whenever it gets changed, we still want this value whatever the user entered to be here. We don't want again the empty value automatically coming up here while you're typing, right? So that's the reason we use remember. So whenever remember survives the composable getting recomposed. So this can be uh, so whenever the values changed, say we are typing something here, the typing value should update inside the task name. Task name is equal to it. Similarly here in the on value change of task description is equal to it. It means whatever that we typed inside this form. So if we try to run it right now, whatever the value we change, it is getting showed up here. So if we miss this particular thing here, and if we try to write something, see, I'm entering something, it's still not showing up here. So that's the reason this is important here. So if I comment it out and if I try to type something, it is working, right? And say as soon as we click on this save button, right now this save button doesn't do anything. But if I just go here and say ViewModel dot add task and give it as a name and send description, right now it will add the to-dos for us, right? So if I just do something random text and if I save it, see, the to-do form is working right now. And whatever the things that I give here, by iPad, go to Apple Store, and if I try to save it, it got showed up here. But this one doesn't work, right? On checkbox checked. Why? Because on checkbox on checked change is currently empty. What should happen? It should toggle the to do, right? ViewModel dot toggle to do. Currently it doesn't have ViewModel access here, so we have to pass it from function, just like how we did it here on save clicked. In here on to do toggled, on to do toggled is a function name, and what it takes a to do. Do we have to do here? Yeah, we have a to do here, and it can just return a unit. So what we do in here on to do toggled off, we send the same to do that we have gotten here, right? And in the to do row, what we can do, we can use a ViewModel dot toggle to do. Currently the toggle to do function still doesn't exist, so we are supposed to write it. Click on here and create member function toggle to do, right? This we can name it as to do. So what should happen when we are trying to toggle it to do, right? We can say copy these things, and we don't have any new to do here. The new to do is whatever the same thing we are supposed to find that particular element inside of this list, right? Instead of adding, we are supposed to find it. How do you find it? List dot index of first one which has it dot id is equal to our to do dot id. Right, we are supposed to get that val id is equal to, we right now got that id, so we do list of that particular, oh, not this one. So we have a index of that element, so what we do, list of id is equal to list of id dot copy whatever the status is equal to current to do status dot not, right? So whatever the toggle current, we are supposed to toggle whatever the current to do is. So this we have it inside of And so the new list will have this element instead of that particular element, right? uh, and we are supposed to pass to do list of list, right? All good. It is taking a list and this is that list. And if we try to run the app right now, and if I toggle, see the toggle works right now. Previously the toggle didn't work. So this is the main logic. So this is how we usually write whatever. If I remove, there should be two to dos again. If I remove the it in it, and whatever we want, we can write it here. Checkbox working. So this is the main thing, like whatever that you see, how to build an app is firstly define your data, whatever the data you have. Currently we have a to-do list, and inside the to-do list we have to-dos, list of to-dos, and we will model those to-dos, like what this particular checkbox state can be either boolean and either checked or unchecked, so it's a boolean, and this thing can be string, so they are strings. First we define the data, and we go here, we build some UI without any logic. We just build the bare UI. After that we hook that logic with our UI with our logic by writing the functions in the ViewModel layer. And these are state holders, so whenever we update it here, right, it if you see, the UI is automatically updating. So using this state here, right, by using the state, by collecting as a state. So these are state holders, and once we update the state holders, the UIs automatically get updated. So this is how you develop an app. Any app, any particular, take any other use case, the same thing happens again. Define the data, build some UI, write some logic, and hook this logic with your UI. So this is the main thing, right? See ya guys.